Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July 23rd Planning Board meeting. We're happy to have you all tonight. And Mrs. Varston, would you please have the roll call?
Mr. Bahu? Present. Ms. Felix? Mr. Lee?
Present.
Robinson?
Present.
Back. Mr. Servance? He's not here yet. Mr. Weatherholtz?
Here.
And Ms. Washington present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Any citizens that wish to address the board on the coming agenda items, we're going to ask you to fill out a questionnaire. And when you come to the lecture, please state your name and address. We will now move on to item 4A. Pardon? Or 3A, rather. Sorry. Skipping it.
Item 3A, which is approval of the minutes that the planning board held 301 South Ridgewood Avenue, Daytona Beach. That meeting was June 25th.
Just a little correction on the minutes. I was absent last time. Just want to make sure that's reflected on there. I had called, was not here. So, with that, I make a motion that we approve minutes as written.
I have a second.
Second. Oh, can I do that?
Sure.
Okay. I didn't.
So, how can I say it was correct if I wasn't here?
You don't have any reason to believe that there's an inaccuracy, so there's no reason that you can't
Okay.
vote on approving the minutes.
Okay then. Thank you.
We have a second, so everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carries. Okay, now we will move on to item 4A.
Item 4A, Volusia County Emergency Medical Services Headquarters, Semi-Public Use Permit, DEV 2025-340, quasi-judicial hearing.
Hi. Good evening, Danilee Pettick, Principal Planner. This item is a request for a semi-public use permit on a 4.42 acre property zoned business automotive and tourist highway interchange to allow Volusia County Emergency Medical Services to locate their headquarters on the property with offices, training facilities, and fleet maintenance services. So the property is located at 1720 Mason Boulevard. The future land use is retail. And the zoning, like I said, is business automotive and tourist highway interchange. And this is the aerial which shows the existing developed conditions of the site. So the property was constructed in the 1980s and was most recently a used car dealership that also provided services, car repair services. The county purchased the property and wishes to locate their emergency medical services or EMS headquarters on the property with offices, training facilities, and fleet service repair. A public or semi-public use is a use by a government agency or similar that serves the need of the public, but requires special consideration before it can be deemed appropriate in zoning districts which do not expressly allow those uses. So the county's EMS headquarters proposed uses are most similar to conference or training center, professional services offices, and fleet service repair. The first two uses are permitted in both zoning districts on the property. The fleet service repair use is not. So the semi-public use permit requested would allow all three uses, in addition to any related ancillary uses, to be located on this property. So a site plan, as shown here, has been submitted showing the proposed improvements to the existing property, including a small building expansion and improvements to the landscaping, irrigation, parking, signage, utilities, and drainage. And the site plan is currently under review by staff and will be approved administratively if the semi-public use permit is approved. And this is also the landscape plan proposed that shows the landscape improvements, particularly along Mason Avenue. So semi-public use permits are subject to the review standards in the city's land development code, and staff has reviewed the request and has found it meets the standards for a semi-public use permit, as it will renovate an existing development and activate a long vacant site on a major thoroughfare, which is an ideal location for such a government-related use. So with that, staff recommends the planning board forward the requested semi-public use permit to the city commission with the recommendation of approval. A majority vote by the planning board members present and voting is required to forward a recommendation to the city commission. And this item is tentatively scheduled to be heard by the city commission for final consideration on August 19th. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I think you kind of addressed it. The use of fleet service or auto repair was already there before. Like, how is it there before?
Yeah,
but it
so
doesn't exist, I guess.
it was an accessory to the car dealership, but since this is mostly an office, repair services isn't really going to be an accessory to that. So this is just like making sure it's fully legal and allowed on this property.
That's what I figured you were going to say. I just wanted
Yep.
to clarify.
Two car dealerships consecutively before it came up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that repair would have been ancillary or
Yes.
accessory to that
That's right.
primary use. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a fence around this area?
Oh, that I don't know off the top of my head. You can ask the applicant if they know if there's a fence around it.
I didn't know whether they would require it around that or not.
There are requirements for fleet service repair. I don't believe having a fence is. I believe it just needs to be screened in some way, which it will be with the landscaping.
Mr.
Or in
Chair,
an enclosed building, that's what it requires.
I have a question. What's the impact? There's an apartment complex across the street, and there are several apartments within that area. How is the traffic going to affect the safety of those residents across the street? Was that addressed in your report?
I don't believe it will be impactful at all because it was an existing site that was a used car dealership, which is more impactful than this will be, which is mostly offices. So it's going to be during regular business hours as opposed to the car dealership.
But aren't you going to be doing repair services?
Like I said, fleet repair services requires it to be completely enclosed, so it won't be like out in the open. And they are going to have their scenic thoroughfare overlay buffer on Mason as well.
Mr. Milton, historically, this has been two car dealerships, and they did full-time repair. From a traffic generation perspective versus a service building and that sort of thing, it should generate less traffic than the prior uses. And these uses one migrated away to the auto mall, the other one came here for a while and did business. They then moved out, but the apartments came after the first dealership was there, and I think in between that and the second dealership. So they had existing conditions actually more significant traffic-wise than they will with this proposed use.
I mean, you know, I'm glad that there's going to be a improvement in that area instead of the car dealerships that's there now. But I was just concerned about, you know, those apartments across the street with the kids and school and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, I can't imagine them crossing Mason Avenue to get to the county's EMS headquarters.
well,
Or honestly, the used car dealership. So it shouldn't be an issue. Mason is a pretty significant road as it is. So.
yeah, and I understand. And looking at I think there's going to be some improvement to that area in terms of the road. So hopefully they'll put some kind of crossing signals and stuff like that.
Those signals exist already at the intersection. And what you'll see is the building will be activated, cleaned up, and used. Right now, when you go by, it looks deserted
Right.
and abandoned.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
a bad look to it.
I don't object to the building, you know, to this county taking over the property.
And the maintenance part of it is exactly that. So it's not going to be the same as if you got a full-time repair shop. And the second dealership was a used car dealership, so they had a lot more work in that respect. These are service vehicles associated with EMS.
Yeah, that's part of why I asked the question, because I think the use as far as the impact that of what's going on the property, it can only be less than what it was before because they were already doing that activity but at a higher volume. Yeah.
But, you know, living in that particular area and the zone, I didn't see much activity on that from the last car dealership. I thought it was some kind of front. Because I never see anybody goes in there. I never seen a car leaves out of there. Then all of a sudden, you know, there's a car dealer. First one left, and then the other one come. But I never see anybody coming and going in there. So now that you're going to have an office and fleet repairs, you know, I believe you're going to have, in reality, more activity. So I was just, I love that the county's going in there. Don't get me wrong.
Prior to the second dealership, it was a BMW and Volkswagen dealership.
Yeah,
It was very busy.
Yeah.
And that's the one that moved to the west because they were getting bigger than they already were. So it was an active site.
Yeah.
Yeah, next door is Gerber Collision,
Right.
which is very active, and there might still be an enterprise rental.
Yeah, it's
there,
still there.
There's a lot of car-related activities right there on Mason, so this fits right in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I haven't. Thank you.
Can I hear from the applicant?
Good evening, Jim Corbett, Director of Facility Management for Volusia County. Appreciate you guys' consideration for this project. We've been trying, as part of a CDBGR grant, to get the operations over at Carswell Avenue and Holly Hill moved over here out of a flood zone. Appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to look at this project and consider the exemption request that we're requesting. I just would like to clarify for the fleet maintenance operations, it's standard preventative maintenance. There are no major repairs going on there. Your battery change, oil changes, tire rotations, anything major is going to be taken back to Tiger Bay Road in Daytona Beach. So should be minimal. You're not going to have a 24-hour facility like a fire station would be. It's a administration and training facility.
Well, welcome to the city. We're glad to see you come. Is there any questions for the applicant?
I just want to, so they're going to keep their site on Mason Avenue by the railroad track there, Carswell?
No,
And-
we
can-
will be consolidating all EMS activities over to
Okay,
Mason.
and I think it's a little better because right by the railroad track and the train comes and you can't get across the track, and I think it's a good location for the activities.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed that there's some law enforcement gathering at that particular building on a regular basis. Will that continue?
No, the sheriff and I believe it might have been the city police department too requested to do some training there while the building was empty. And so we allowed them to do that because it was a good opportunity for them to do their training activities on an empty building like that.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
More? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any questions from the audience? None hearing? Could we take a vote on this?
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve agenda item 4A, Volusia County Emergency Medical Service Headquarters, DEV 2025-340.
Second.
Second, is there,
All in favor?
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-4, 7-4.
Yeah.
7-0, sorry. Hearing none, motion passes 7-4, 7-0. What did I say?
Yeah.
Okay, item 4B.
Sir, good evening, Planning.
Item 4B.
So item 4B and item
She's gonna read.
4C.
She's gonna read first.
You gotta read first.
That is the item we're on now, right?
Right.
Yes.
Will be.
Item 4B, US 92 Mixed Use, Large Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment, LSCPA, DEV 2025-615, Legislative Hearing.
Good evening, Planning Board. My name is Luke Rinkus. I just want to preface items 4B and 4C are concurrent together. This one here, 4B, is the comp plan amendment, with 4C being a rezoning of it. So I'd like to present them both one after the other.
Sure.
I think we have to decide if that's okay, right?
A motion from the board to hear the item concurrently, and then we'd have to take a separate, assuming that's passed, we'd have to take a separate vote on each item because it's a different standard.
Right. I make a motion to allow both items to be presented at the same time together.
And I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Go ahead.
B. This is a request by Jessica Gow of Cobb Cole and Associates on behalf of the property owner Theocarr Company, Ltd., for approval of a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use map designation for approximately 54.74 acres from county low-impact urban to city mixed use and to establish neighborhood V. Issue. The subject property is currently located in unincorporated Volusia County, and the applicant is concurrently requesting annexation into the city of Daytona Beach and rezoning into a planned development general. Here we see the site location on the south side of West International Speedway. The future land use, which will be, if passed, mixed use. The current conditions of the property are vacant. And the zoning right now is rural agriculture with the county. So the site is currently located in unincorporated Volusia County, vacant and undeveloped. The updated future land use would allow for light industrial, office, retail, hospitals, tourist accommodation, and residential uses, with a maximum of 25 dwelling units per acre. Staff finds the proposed large-scale comprehensive plan amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and based on staff's analysis and review, staff recommends approval of the proposed future land use map amendment from county low-impact urban to mixed use for approximately 54.74 acres. A majority vote of the planning board members present voting is required to recommend approval to the city commission. And I'll continue on to item 4C.
Okay.
She needs to read it into the record first.
Ms. Watt, you have to read it for the minutes.
Excuse me,
That's okay.
4C. 4C. US 92, mixed use rezoning to planned development general, PDG, DEV 2025-616, quasi judicial hearing.
Once again, this is a request by Jessica Gow of Cobb Cole and Associates on behalf of the property owner, Theocarr Company, to rezone approximately 54.74 acres from Volusia County rural agriculture to city plan development general to allow a mixed-use development. The applicant is also requesting annexation and a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment from county low-impact urban to city mixed-use and established neighborhood V. PD rezoning is contingent upon approval of the comprehensive plan amendment. Once again, this is the site location. Future land use, proposed as mixed use, currently vacant, and the current zoning is rural agriculture with the county. The site is currently located in unincorporated Volusia County, rural agriculture. The PD would allow for a variety of uses such as residential, office, retail, recreation, and light industrial. Planned residential development is limited to 178 units and non-residential to 100,000 square feet of development. Staff finds the proposed rezoning of approximately 54.74 acres from Volusia County rural agriculture to planned development general. The PD establishes a coordinated mixed-use development framework consistent with the comprehensive plan, supports orderly growth along the US 92 corridor, and incorporates site-specific standards to ensure compatibility with surrounding properties and available infrastructure. A majority vote of the planning board members present and voting is required to recommend approval for the city commission. Thank you.
Is there any questions for staff?
I have a question, Mr. Chair. And look, if you go on back to the, so there is a, is it a retention pond? If you go back, yeah, is that a retention pond under, that dark blue area? What is that right there?
It is a borrow pit.
It's a borrow pit.
Yes, sir. We had a discussion with the applicant today, and you can tell it's a borrow pit by the square lines, and it's purely dug for depth, probably by a DOT project. Typically, that's what those are. And it also has a split boundary. As you can see, part of the problem. So it's something that isn't included in the development plan other than the fact that it's physically there. And Ms. Gow will speak to that a little bit further, I think, but we did have a discussion today with the applicant on that point.
How does that affect the flooding?
It shouldn't have any effect at all. It's a fixed pool of water without any outfall. Also, no particular drainage lines that go to it. When you look at the pattern of the woods, you can kind of see a wetland pattern of some property, but it's an excavation area that it doesn't flow water in or out. It's like a box in the middle of the woods.
Okay. So when we, they would not come with the designation of rural agricultural if we annex, if we.
Well, the applicant's proposing an amendment to the comp plan, which is standard practice when you're annexing property into the city, that you'd have your comp plan for the city applied to the property. And the history of this area, as you probably know, is a long time ago it was rural and it was kind of out of the way, but it's no longer in that form. You have an industrial park plan to the west, the city's sheriff's service center a little further west, the jail, first step. There's all sorts of things that are out there now. And anticipation of a modification of the interchange to give the area a better connection to Orlando and vice versa.
So,
Any other questions?
yeah, two actually. Mr. Morris, could you just tell everybody what a borrow pit is and just
I'd be
explain
happy
that
to.
its purpose?
Certainly.
Yeah.
A borrow pit is effectively a reference to borrowing, in a sense, the dirt in the site to take it somewhere else. Now, no one ever repays the loan, i.e. filling the hole back in. So typically what you find is a pit that looks like that in the proximity of the highways that you have in the area. It was used for 92 or 95 or 4. Just, we don't know where the dirt went, but that's what you see there.
But it was created essentially for the borrowing or taking of the dirt and not for like drainage or things like that.
Exactly correct.
So do we know the water and sewer capacity?
I think Ms. Gow will speak to that on her
Okay.
part of the presentation.
Okay, perfect.
My second question was when we're permitting this 178 residential units, and I may have missed it in here, is that an increase from the regular like mixed use standards that we would have, or is that a decrease or the same?
If you will.
I think the applicant.
Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Answer that.
I believe it is a decrease.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? We'll now hear from the applicant. And I might add, we had talked during our meeting this morning, and she answered most of the questions very adequately. And now you're up.
Fantastic. As usual, you'll see me a few times this evening, so thank you for your patience. For the record, Jessica Gow, Cobb Cole Law Firm, 1 Daytona Boulevard, Daytona Beach, Florida. A quick overview, and then I'll touch base on some of the questions that were raised. And if it works with you guys, I'll do the land use and the zoning together as well. And then if you have specific questions, we can go through those. This property, as you see on the aerial, is surrounded by Daytona Beach in terms of annexed parcels. It is not an enclave, but it's right there on the border across from LPGA. So there's an annexation. As Mr. Morris said, when you annex a property in, you have to establish city zoning and land use. The development pattern in this area, just to orient you, directly north is the Entrada development that was approved with that kind of anchored retail shopping center, residential behind it. Directly to the west, and you see me doing the compass, so I make sure I'm doing the right direction. Rob picks on me about it. Directly to the west is the North Shore development that was just here a few months ago. That was just approved by commission for that layout of mixed use. Remember, that one had a pretty big wetland system that we're working around in that corridor. This site, based on initial review, and we'll of course test it during site plan or subdivision, does not have any preliminary wetland footprint. So it's uniquely situated because on one side is the FPL easement corridor, and on the other side, as noted, there is that borrow pit that straddles both this property and the property next door, which is owned by George Kiramidas, local family, that has been there for a very long time. How it became separated over time in different parcels is not known to me, but it is there, and they recognize that it was at some point a source for dirt for the roadway. I'm also assuming it was US 92, but it could have also been for any state project. That will remain. It is shown on the concept plan just as something existing that will remain in place there. We are looking at the mixed use designation. Under the county future land use, it's urban, low intensity urban under the county. The agricultural zoning, as noted, this area used to be agricultural. They certainly took advantage of that. There are some silvicultural activities that happen on this site. This is mostly planted pine. So you can see that in the aerial. Those trees are a little too orderly to be natural growth. Those are planted at some point. The shift to mixed use is to kind of match the corridor here, but mixed use under the city's designation, as you guys know, is a floor area ratio of 3.0 and a density of 25 units an acre. That would allow 7 million square feet of development on this site and 1,300 residential units. And that's a lot. It's a lot for this 50 acres. And so what you see is a request to narrow that down in the comprehensive plan. So it would require overall of 178 units and 100,000 square feet of retail. Now that 100,000 square feet of retail is designated along ISB to have that commercial view along the main roadway, and it's set up for 4 acres of property, so a commercial corner on the edge there. With modern development, I don't think that you're going to get 100,000 square feet of retail on 4 acres, so it'd probably be under that, but that was just an amount that we may get to if ISB corridor went 2-story retail. I don't see that in our, short-term future, but that is kind of the setup there. You'll see in the PD agreement that there is a concept that just says residential and a commercial pocket. So there's no layout here. This is a property owner who's requesting that these standards be put in place. There's no master developer just yet, which also means there are no modifications other than one. And in the zoning, you see that one modification request is that in your code, if you have a shopping center or inline retail, you have to have 5 acres. Because we've designated 4 acres as that shopping center or commercial corner, we've requested to modify that to allow an inline retail on 4 acres of property. And that is the only modification to code standard. So it will meet all requirements for trees, stormwater, signage, lot size, no setback changes, nothing that we usually have before you. With that, at a high-level overview, I think we touched on the trips on water and sewer capacity for the comprehensive plan. They reviewed that. This is already in the city's kind of core service area. So they reviewed and showed that there's plenty of capacity available for the proposed use in their system. And this is a reduction in traffic from the current land use. Obviously, the zoning agriculture is a holding classification at the county, so we review it based on that urban low-intensity land use the county has, and it shows a reduction in traffic from the county land use to the proposed city land use. And with that, I'm here for questions.
I want to note one thing with the, we had talked about it, and with the easement, the power easement, I didn't know whether there was an offset of housing away from the unit. But I was told or informed that there is no distance. I know at one time they had talked about it, but it was never in, so it's clear cut what they can do and everything. It's just the only note that I have is the last time I was out there, it was extremely wet. And so the developer should have a good time whenever it starts.
Well, absolutely. They will have to design stormwater. And that's the key point, I think, relating to the borrow pit is they do not get to claim any drainage capacity in that borrow pit. That is there. It was for fill. They will be developing wholly on their own to show they have stormwater when they develop to support the development.
A question. In surveying out the land out there, were there any animals, any protected species or anything that you found? Probably not, right?
No, on initial review, no species of concern.
Okay.
You'll see down the road, down 92 a bit, way off site, there's a abandoned eagle nest. That was the only thing that was.
Yeah, and there's normally some deers and stuff like that. Normally you see them alongside the road. I was just wondering. And then out of the way kind of question, I know that's part of the flight plan for the airport. Would that impact in any way, or would that have any?
No, the heights that we're looking for in the PD are fairly low.
Oh, fairly low, okay.
And then when they go through site plan, if they are in the flight path, it'll get flagged by city staff and they'd have to get FAA review.
Okay.
I think my concern is more of the school impact and the traffic, but you mentioned the traffic, so it's mostly about the schools for me. How is that going to impact that?
So we go through a 2-phase review cycle. So you'll see that a condition for any approval under this is that the school board saying, yep, we've got capacity. Then when the residential comes forward for that 178 units, they would go through a school capacity review at that time as well to make sure that nothing changed.
Okay.
And if the school board says we have an issue here, we have lower capacity, then we'd enter into a capacity mitigation agreement with the school to say, based on what we are providing, we are creating a need for, say, 12 middle schoolers, 20 high schoolers. Here's the cost to the school for each student. They're very expensive. As parents, I think we know that, but as schools, even more. And then you enter an agreement to pay for that impact to the school so they can use it to create new facilities, classrooms, teachers, and things like that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I have a question in terms of the tax roll. Now it's a rural agricultural designation, so you practically pay no taxes on it. When we annex it, right, what happens to the do they have to pay more taxes?
Ultimately, they will. So when it's annexed into the city, you pay both all of the county taxes that they already pay, in addition to all of the city adopted tax rates. But the taxes are assessed based on use, not zoning. And so putting the zoning in place alone does not change your taxation. It's just when they start to use it, so when the property is developed, then the tax code will change, the classification will change, and they will be taxed on the improvement value.
So what is the benefit for the city to annex it? I mean, if they're going to, all the conditions remain the same, why do we want to take them in?
So the
Why don't
land
we
use-
just wait until they develop it? Then we say, okay.
Because it cannot develop under the agricultural. If it stays in the agricultural, it will not develop. The structure that you're putting forward of the land use and zoning is not agriculture. It's to provide for development.
So why don't they ask the county to change the designation from rural agricultural to multi-use under the county?
Because based on where it's located, just based on the city service area surrounded by city parcels, if we went to the county with this, they would say, have you talked to the city about annexing? Because it makes sense for orderly development.
And it would be, that would be problematic for the city because we would be providing that service most likely, and we would not be collecting revenue from that property while also providing the service.
We also provide, if you want to have city utilities, you have to annex into the jurisdiction of the city. So it's a prerequisite for them to do that, and they can't get a development order to develop the property without knowing the utilities availability and the capacity of the utilities. From an advantage perspective, we control the design and the input rather than the county. So it's the city that says yes or no to the ideas versus the county. And the tax base does increase from the perspective of net value over time. It goes from agricultural, which you're right, yields virtually nothing. It comes into the city, so it pays city taxes first and foremost, which it will pay. It presently does not do that now. It will do that subsequent, and in its developed state, it'll be much more valuable than it presently sits.
But until it's developed, what's the tax that they're going to pay the city? What's the benefit?
The property appraiser will decide that, but I would say to you, it doesn't have any disbenefit. It has the same status as it presently does at the moment. So the conditions for what we have to do with it doesn't change. It's vacant land until they develop it, but we control the development of it, and we require them to be a part of the city in order to have city utilities and to have our development review. Otherwise, we have no jurisdiction or ability to review or to control.
So it'll still be a rural agricultural under the city.
So
As you see it, it will look like that, but it has a classification that permits it to change.
And the tax value changes once development activity starts. Once you're not using it actively for agriculture, as of January 1st for any year, your tax code changes. So that's when they assess it. And so the PD agreement says that this first phase of development has to commence within, I think it's 5 years. That's your standard PD time frame. At some point before that 5-year period, they're going to start looking at platting, survey, site plan, and starting development activity. Once they do that, they're no longer an active agricultural use. If they have an agricultural exemption, it goes away, and then you go from there.
But if I'm understanding what Mr. Moore said correctly, even though it won't change until that use changes, once it's annexed by the city, there will be an additional tax for the city. It'll just be based on its current use.
Correct, and any exemptions. Yep.
And then there's a timeline that holds them to developing it.
Any other questions? Now,
Thank you.
since they've joined these two items, will there be a single vote or a double vote?
Let me yield to the man to my right.
You need a motion, separate motion and vote on each item.
On each item, okay.
Do we need to see if there's anybody for it or against it? Green forms? Oh, you don't have any forms, okay.
I'd make a motion to approve item 4B, DEV 2025-615, the US 92 mixed use large scale plan development agreement.
Can I hear a second?
I second.
We hear a second. We will vote on it. We've got a.
Yeah, second, over here. He's second.
Did you?
No, I just said, I don't know what I was saying. I mean, I was just listening to you. Go ahead and move the motion.
I thought
No, he did
I'm
second.
sorry.
I said second.
You said the second.
Both said it. We both said it.
We
Okay.
both said it.
Oh, we've got a lot of seconds.
So we just need a vote.
Since we have a second, could we vote on it? Everybody says aye, that approves it.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed. Passes 7-0.
Okay. And I make a motion we approve agenda item 4C, Plan Development Sheet, General DV 2025-616, US 92 Mixed Use PD.
Second.
Severin seconds. So can we vote? Everyone that's for it, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0.
All right.
We will now move to item 4D.
Item 4D, First Amendment to Cornerstone Plan Development General PDG, rezoning DEV 2026-055, quasi-judicial hearing.
Thank you. So good evening, Dana Lee Pettick, Principal Planner again. This item is a request for an amendment to the Cornerstone Plan District Agreement to modify the scenic thoroughfare overlay buffer standards. The property is located south of LPGA Boulevard and west of Williamson Boulevard. The future land use on the property is mixed use, and the zoning is the Cornerstone PD. And this is the aerial which shows the existing commercial development which is underway. So the Cornerstone PD was approved in 2024, which combined the two previous plan developments into one unified plan development. The property is partially developed with the majority of lots undergoing individual site plan approvals and construction on different phases. The property has existing established scenic thoroughfare overlay buffers along LPGA Boulevard and Williamson Boulevard. So the 2024 Cornerstone PD agreement included a provision for the existing STO buffers to remain as is. Now the developer is requesting this amendment to remove the requirement to keep the buffers as is, to allow the removal of several existing trees and replant them per their provided landscape plan. No other changes are proposed to the PD with this amendment. So this slide shows the applicant's exhibit for the removal of trees in the LPGA Boulevard STO buffer. And this is a zoomed in version of the tree removal plan along LPGA Boulevard, and you can see where it's X'd out. Those are the trees proposed to be removed. This is the applicant's exhibit for the same along Williamson, and this is the zoomed in version of the tree removal plan provided with their site plan. And this is their provided landscape plan, which is a part of the PD amendment, showing how the buffer will be replanted with mostly understory ornamental and palm trees. This is the street view of the existing buffer along LPGA Boulevard, and this is the buffers shown from the corner of LPGA and Williamson. So staff supports the Planning Board's recommendation to the City Commission. Majority vote by the Planning Board members present and voting is required to forward a recommendation to the City Commission, and this item is tentatively scheduled to be heard by City Commission for first reading on August 19th and for second reading on September 2nd. That concludes my
Any questions for
presentation.
staff?
Yes, are buffers being reduced?
Yes. Yeah, they will be reduced. They will have to meet the code minimums, but it will be a significant reduction in what's currently there.
Okay, and then then residents kind of just notice a difference on that, or?
Yeah, I believe it will be noticeable because they're taking out existing established trees, which have been growing for many, many years, significant amount of time, and they're taking out and planting new trees. So
Right.
they're going to be small for a while. So even when it's newly planted, it's going to be very obvious. But even when they grow, they're not going to be as big as the current trees, which are mostly like large specimen trees, live oaks, magnolias.
Okay.
They're replacing them with palm trees and understory trees and ornamental trees, which they are allowed to do as long as they're meeting the code minimums, but it will be a significant change.
Okay, thank you.
When you say they'll be reduced, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
When you say they'll be reduced and they have to follow the minimum, what is the minimum?
The minimum, it is listed in the staff report. I believe I listed exactly what they have to provide. Yes, it is on page 7 of 9 of my staff report. So it is 4 shade trees for every 40 lineal feet of property frontage and 4 understory trees for every 80 lineal feet. And every newly planted tree must be a minimum of 4-inch caliper. So they are allowed to cluster, and the previous PD agreement in 2024 did allow them to put this all within a 35-foot width, which was fine because that's where most of the existing trees were. So as long as they meet
That's
these
what
standards.
I was referring to. So that
Yes.
that 35-foot width, is that also what you were referring to? the buffer zone?
Yeah, so the 35-foot width, that they still have to meet the 50-foot width requirements, which is what these are.
Okay.
So the 35-foot width is just a reduction in the width, which they requested a waiver for previously.
Okay.
And they were granted.
My question is, I thought is if they remove certain trees, they have to plant that many more trees to equal.
Right, yeah, so specifically, the language in this says that the replacement mitigation for the specimen trees being removed will be what they're showing in the landscape plan.
Okay.
So it won't be a like-for-like replacement. It won't be like a historic tree removal replacement. It'll be what they're showing in the
Okay, and the question is, the landscape plan, was this not previously approved, and why is it being changed?
No, it has not been previously approved because we required them to keep the existing buffers as is, so there's no reason to provide one until now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually kind of my concern is that it's kind of noted in the report that was kind of a point by the commission before was to keep the overlay and keep the buffer.
Especially as a thoroughfare.
I don't understand why they're taking out to put in palm trees and.
Yeah, I
these
will
are-
defer to the applicant on that.
Because I'm looking at the trees and, we got magnolia oak and I like the way it is now. It kind of separate,
I mean,
because along that way is nothing but a concrete jungle and.
Yeah, like I noted in my staff report, a lot of the development in LPGA just happens to be new. So all of them have planted buffers, but it takes a really long time for them to get this established. So it's kind of a rarity to have a buffer that's established in the area. So
I kind of like that buffer there, and I don't see how it affects the business that's there. I don't see you take out the natural trees to put
Why
in.
don't we let the applicant?
Before the staff goes, I just have one staff-related question. You can tell me if not.
Okay.
I just am not familiar with this overlay, or as familiar as I am with other overlays. So, what was the purpose behind this overlay, or what are we trying to achieve here?
A lot of the purpose of the overlay was to essentially set aside property for eventual roadway expansion if necessary, but it also provides screening along major thoroughfares where there's more significant development, like along LPGA. There's a lot of commercial, there's a lot of apartments. So it just kind of creates a screening, a code required screening. And we have a lot of our roads require the STO buffers and various widths along LPGA and Williamson. It happens to be a 50-foot width. So it's our biggest STO required buffer.
And so when it says Williamson Boulevard Scenic Thoroughfare Overlay, that's just a name. It's just a name that was picked for the area.
Yeah, because in our code, we have a specific table that has each road, and each road has specific width requirements.
Okay, thank you.
So that's why that is specifically called out.
I appreciate that.
Okay, you're welcome.
Making sure we weren't trying to preserve something specific to Williamson.
No.
And yeah.
No, it's the STO buffer overlay.
Gotcha.
Hello again. Good evening. For the record, Jessica Gow with Cobb Cole from 1 Daytona Boulevard, Daytona Beach, Florida. A little bit of background on this one is as noted that this PD, although to say this PD was adopted in 2024 seems a little misaligned because that was the uniform PD after we split it up into two separate PDs after it was an original combined PD in the first place. So I think the original first PD was 2012. And we went through that exercise in 2019, 2020. They all sang Kumbaya and came back together in 2024 for the master plan redevelopment for Cornerstone Exchange. So the Cornerstone PD that came forward in 2024 identified that right now on that site, as you can picture, you've got the Cornerstone office buildings, the two main office buildings there. That is what was originally contemplated when this buffer was installed. As you can see from the view of LPGA and Williamson, it is a screen of trees. You cannot see through it. It is dense. There's no visibility on that site from that corner. The change that came through with the Cornerstone PD in 2024 was to allow for out-parcel development within the site. You can see where the parcel has been subdivided pursuant to city review to allow for retail, restaurant, and those different operations. When you're looking at that operation and those tenants, they look at visibility. And I want to clarify a few statements that were in the staff report. When we came through in September of 2024, there was language in the PD agreement that allowed for modification of this buffer and relocation of trees. During the final staff report review from Planning Board, it was noted that in order to be able to support a change like that, staff would have to be able to review a plan for that removal and replacement. And we did not have that at that time because we did not have tenants. And so as a condition to say, we're running out of time, we've got to get the zoning in place, we have tenant discussions coming, we said we will agree in the PD that we can't change it without further review. This is that further review. It was not something that commission said we never want this buffer to change. It was that we didn't have the information at the time. Now, when you talk about the buffer width, it's the 50 feet to 35 feet was approved, provided that that 35 foot was planted with the same required intensity as that 50-foot buffer. Now, it was just noted that the specimen tree replacement is what we show on the landscape plan. That is true. What we show on the landscape plan complies with the specimen tree replacement standards in the land development code for the site. There is no modification being requested to that. There's no modification to the code at all for this buffer. So what we are doing is changing a condition that was a condition to come to planning board to say we didn't have the information, we need to review it, to a code compliant plan. Any other applicant on this corridor would have the right to do this without an amendment. They wanted to see what it looked like, and so we're going through this process for review. We are keeping mature trees that we can, clustering others, and planting a mix. It meets all land development code requirements for plantings, spacing, coverage, specimen tree preservation, specimen tree replacement. I am here for questions, but one of the core pieces of this is to allow for visibility for those uses that were approved by commission on this commercial corner.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because I didn't have some of that background or wasn't as well versed in that. I would just ask from staff's perspective, you guys concur with her statements of that? I mean, since we're establishing a record, is that how staff perceived the commission's stance before?
I'll ask Ms. Pettit come back up and respond.
Okay.
What am I concurring with?
So she just articulated to us that the commission wasn't trying to restrict the use at all. It was just that they wanted to see a plan, and this is really just that part of the process. Them coming back with a plan for that buffer area and presenting that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize. You're right. Staff presented
As
it, they
the
just
staff
approved.
member who reviewed it, my position was actually that it should always be completely preserved as much as possible. And yes, they are well within their rights to come back with this proposed amendment to remove that language and to propose adjustments to the STO buffer. That it does meet the code minimum, but it's the minimum that it is currently meeting.
Okay.
So yeah, my position, I can't speak for city commission because I'm not them.
Right.
But my position was that the scenic thoroughfare overlay buffers, because there's such a rarity in this area, that it should be preserved as is.
But you, hold on a second. I'm a little bit confused here.
I will say
But
that
you
what they're
recommend-
proposing along Williamson is a bit more palatable than what they are along LPGA, because Williamson, it's mostly just in one corner, it's mostly palm trees, mostly crepe myrtles. A significant portion of the buffer is staying as is. So
that's kind of why
there's like a balance that they could reach.
So your recommendation then is to?
My recommendation is that I don't have one, because my
Okay.
position is it should stay as is, but I
Okay.
don't object if there's a different recommendation made by planning board.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of why I asked the questions before about the overlay area and made sure I understood it, because that's how I'm kind of conflicted when I read it on paper, right? It looks like a nice plan. It looks like it would improve the visibility. It looks like it would be beautiful.
Yeah, it would be a very nice plan, but
Right.
it would be different.
But then in my mind, I'm like, well, we established that buffer and overlay for a reason. But now after kind of hearing the facts, I kind of feel like if they're doing what's within their right to be requested and they're beautifying the area, I mean, I do have a little bit of heartburn about the mature trees. That's the hang up I have. But
Yep.
but yeah, that's I see the point. I see the information. I appreciate it.
And my thing also, the businesses that moved in that area knew that buffer was there before they moved in. So now they want to change it for more visibility. You look across the street to that, the ale house is there, and there should have been some more trees that buffer that whole area, that development, which I don't know how that was missing, and those trees were not planted there for that. But I know there's an overlay, there's a buffer zone for all our thoroughfare going across the beach, and then Williamson. And it seems like, you know, they're becoming shorter and smaller and lower just so people can see visibility. But I think with all the signage and all the stuff that's out there, I think that's proper. There's a lot of visibility through those signs. There's a lot of signs out there. And I know they're putting in, I think on Williamson going into the Tanga outlet, they're putting another light there. So again, it's just getting more and more congested. A lot of more things to see. And if you take that buffer away, then you see even more. And I think that was part of having the overlay to kind of protect some of that. And so when you get into the area, then you can see what's actually there. So that's, kind of.
And I don't understand, or I don't see you taking away these specimen trees. The oaks, the magnolia, they're beautiful compared to a palm tree that gives you absolutely nothing. And it'll take years. If you put I'm sorry.
So I think there's just a little, I just want to clarify, we are not modifying the overlay. We are meeting every requirement of your beautification overlay that you have on the site with the proposed plan. The current plan, I don't know if it meets the code. I think it does. There's been some changes over the years since the original approval, but the proposed plan completely meets the overlay. And it is not we're going to take out every single tree. It is that there are trees noted for retention that are mature oaks and species, and there are beautification and kind of diversity of planting that would be provided to create view corridors into the site. The applicant for this site is the one who paid and installed the new signal at Cornerstone to allow for visibility and access to that site based on the uses that are programmed into the approved PD by commission that are not there yet and that do function on visibility of their store frontage. And so it is that balance. I think that's why the code was amended a few years ago to allow for clustering in this area. And again, we meet all of the code requirements.
Ms. Gow,
I've heard the discussion, and they have every right to ask for it.
And they're going to ask for it, but that don't mean we have to approve it.
You're absolutely right. And I think that it would be a disservice to take those trees down. I can understand trimming them up a little bit, but I think that it is changing. They want to change the existing code.
Nope, no changes. No changes to the code at all.
Well, they want to change the appearance there. It would be different if we were lacking space here in this, all of the development that's going on over there. But having trees like that, we don't see it in Daytona. And I'm speaking from experience, the developer, would just as soon as clear cut everything and plant palm trees. And I think that's a disservice to the city.
I think that might be an overstatement. I don't think it's clear cut and plant palm trees. I mean, we do experience kind of that mindset sometimes, but I don't think that's what's here. My hang up in this is that it feels like, well, one of the things is that, like you've already mentioned, like other properties and surrounding this would be able to do this and wouldn't even be here. And somehow we put something in place that's requiring this extra step. That seems like a disservice to the property owner. So I'm a little conflicted about that. I didn't give you an opportunity before, and I should have, and ask you, can you tell us why the applicant would like to do this? And I know you kind of hit on it, but
There are specific tenants who have looked at this site and who have said that we cannot be successful in this location because there's no visibility from the major thoroughfares. So the code standards that allow for clustering, that allow for view corridors into a site that would typically be developed, it's what you see in other areas, are not present on this site because when it was an office, doesn't matter. Self-contained, you can have a thick buffer. There was nothing really going on LPG and Williamson when those office buildings were constructed, although that's crazy to kind of try to picture today.
I'm sorry, I don't think that's a valid, I'm sorry, sir. I don't think that's a valid argument given the traffic, the amount of new development in that area, okay? As
All
far
of that
as
development gets to cluster their landscaping and have view corridors and signage to say this is where this is located.
I think it's very relevant to the record because what they're articulating is that they don't want to do anything different than what code would normally allow every other property owner to do. And that they're articulating a reason why. So if we fail to approve this as a city, there's a cost to them as a property owner, or potentially there is. We don't know that. And that's why I was asking for her to articulate what's the reasoning. If the reasoning is I just want to beautify my property, then I don't know that I can get behind that. If the reason is that they're seeing an increase in vacancy rate or things like that, then that needs to be established here and talked about because that's relevant facts that are affecting somebody who owns property in our city.
It seems like all the new businesses is in there. It's prospering. They seem to be doing well. They knew what was there, and once you get into the parcel, those parcels there, everything is just wide open.
Yeah.
And just marketing.
And those are, so I will say that all of those other new uses are not in this parcel.
Right.
This parcel only has the 2 office
Right.
buildings.
Yeah, I think
Everything
it
else
feels like we're having a
gets to meet
conversation
code
of this
and have view
larger area.
corridors.
But the whole area is part of that.
And the palm trees, like I think John was telling us or educating us months ago, last year, about these businesses comes in and put in palm trees to satisfy the code, then they don't maintain them.
There are about 20 different species of trees in the planting plan. It is not just all removing oaks and replanting with palms. I understand that hesitation. The code requires a mix of vegetation.
Even the argument of, well, there's other businesses in that general area that are wildly successful. I'm envisioning it. I drive by it regularly, as I'm sure many of you do. And when I think about it and I look at this map, this parcel is the one that is buffered the most, and the other ones aren't.
Right.
And so maybe that's why they're doing so successfully. Right. And so, that's my concern in this whole argument or conversation that we're having. It's really not an argument, but I don't think I have anything else to add myself.
And I understand. It's just this is a very heavy commercial corner. It is the intersection of 2 major city thoroughfares. There are beautification and planting standards. We're going to meet all of those. It is just that this site does not have the same standard as the retail use 150 feet away. And they have been told by tenants, this is why we will not locate on this site.
But each case that comes before us, we take it individually. So
Based
if
on
we
your code standards. Yep.
yes, so if we don't approve it for one, it doesn't mean that we're opposed to the other. Or if we approve it for one, business, it doesn't mean that we have to approve it for every business.
True.
It all depends on how it looks in the grand picture.
Right.
Yeah, I live in that area over there, and I think it adds a beauty to that overlay as it is now.
Okay.
Are we ready to vote?
I think you have a public speaker.
Oh, we got another comment.
Oh, John.
We have a speaker, Mr. Nicholson, please.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. For 40 years, I've been fighting for trees, all right? Rob Merrill and I fight all the time on trees and what kind of trees and whatever. If you look at the site, this was okayed 20 some odd years ago. And it was designed for a business park, very upscale. Cornerstone was really, really upscale.
Mm-hmm.
Margaritaville was not even thought of back then. Margaritaville came in, Mosaic came in, with it comes in commercial. These were all pines years ago, all right? They're no longer pines. It is all commercial. Cornerstone, the other 2 buildings they were planning on are not there. They have a Sprouts and something else went in this place, and there's more things coming in. So this location is not, with the trees, is not a commercial location. Does that make sense? It is designed for offices. It is not designed, those trees are not designed for commercial. You need the visual to be able to see what is there. I often go through Tanger Outlet Mall. I have no idea where I'm looking for whatever I'm looking for. It's somewhere in that square mile, right? They don't have a good pattern. I often stop at Dollar Tree, all right? How the heck do I get out of there? Either I go all the way back to, the intersection of 95 and get into that mess, or I travel for like an hour through Budweiser and all that other stuff trying to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs that visual. So I'm not quite thrilled with what they're putting in. All right, I would like a little bit more oomph. but it does allow a visual into what's going up. And I believe at that intersection, because it is highly commercial, it fits well, what they're planning fits well with what's there. So I know I always ask for trees rather than palms, because I don't consider palms trees. But in this instance, it makes sense to do a little adjustment because of the transition that this area has gone through. Thank you.
I guess I have one last comment, which is that I feel as though sometimes when we're up here and we're discussing these things, and it's okay, we all give our opinions, we talk about it, this is an open conversation, but at the end of the day, when we vote on these things, we're voting that the people met the requirements of the code and did what they were required to do, and that the plan is consistent with the surrounding areas, and it's not going to have an adverse effect on the area. And I think that's important to remember. It's not about our feelings or whether we like a particular something. It's about, upholding the code and doing the right thing. So.
Are there any other comments?
Well, again, understand that the folks put us up here to represent the neighborhood. And even though they might meet the minimum requirements, we still have to look at how does it affect the neighborhood? How does it affect the constituents within that area? And that's one of the reasons that we were here. What you're saying is valid, but we also have to accept the fact that we're looking at the real people that's been here for forever.
I 100% agree with you. Right. I think that that's the purpose of these meetings, is to come in and establish that fact. And in fact, it's a requirement of us, right? So I would say if you have testimony that somebody reached out to you and has a problem with this, or they came up here and said something, I think those are all relevant facts that we should all take into account, and we should make our decisions with not just what the lawyers are giving us or staff is giving us,
right,
but also with what the public's saying. But I mean, even as we sit here today, the only public comment is in favor of it. So,
but we don't normally. If you look at the conversations and the issues that comes before the board, we rarely get a lot of our constituents to come in unless it's really controversial. So the absence of our constituents doesn't say, oh, it's a great plan. It's just that it's just an absence of public activities or not necessarily interest, but
but there's a requirement to establish a record here.
Yes,
and
the record I agree the record is established that we have one person, okay, that agrees with the recommendation. However, when we look at us collectively and what we represent, the one person does not represent all of us, or even my neighborhood or my zone.
Very true. If I may also say, city have codes, they have expectations, they have minimum standards and so forth. But at the same time, a lot of times those investors and folks coming in, they ask for variance. They want this reduction, they want that. In this particular thing, we just have to see what's best for our city, what we're looking at, and the direction it flows in. I don't see why the canopies couldn't be raised and get more visibility through that. I think there's some other ways you can look at it. But in this particular thing, because we're going back now to the original plan and saying, okay, this was good then, doesn't mean it's the right thing to do based on the time and season we're in. There's a lot of development. A lot of folks don't like to see all the stuff behind in a certain area. I think the city put in those corridors and those thoroughfares to protect and to keep things, make that green city, and that's why we are required to plant so many trees. We are required to do this and required to do that. I mean, I have to do it at my property, and it takes a while for it to grow. If you take one tree down, they requested that you put in so many other trees to meet the canopy size. I understand that it's permitted, but it's again what we are protecting.
Yeah, and we can make a recommendation. Now it's up to the city commissioners to finally decide that.
Right.
But we're making a recommendation not just based upon the minimum standards, but also what do we think our neighborhood standards would want it to be. So what you're saying is valid. However, we have to look at who do we represent. And the landowner, he has every right what to do with his property. But how does it affect the neighbors?
Ready? All right. Ready?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
A lot of discussion. We're here to, the reason we were appointed to the board is to give recommendations to the city commission. I think that there's been a lot of valid discussion on this matter, and so we're now going to put it up for a vote.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve agenda item 4D, Plan Development General PDG Amendment, DB 2026-055, First Amendment, Cornerstone PD.
Second.
We've got a second. Could I
Roll
hear a
call.
vote?
Can I get a roll call, Mr. Chair?
Yes, let's have a roll call, if you would.
Okay. Mr. Barhu?
No.
Ms. Felix?
No.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
No.
Mr. Servant?
Yes.
Mr. Weatherholt?
No.
Ms. Washington? No.
This item fails. 5-2?
Mm-hmm.
5-2.
Mm-hmm.
Just for a point of clarification, so when it fails, we don't have to take a vote in the opposition or anything like that. It just moves forward with the lack of recommendation from us. Or
Correct. It moves forward to the city
Yeah.
commission without this board's recommendation.
Gotcha.
But we can make another motion. We can make additional motions to be
We've
considered.
already voted on the item.
There would be no need to, right?
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we didn't have to.
Okay.
And as you said, the commission will take this into consideration. Okay, let's go to item
4E.
4E.
Item 4E, Second Amendment to Interstate 95 LPGA Boulevard Retail Plan Development, General, PDG, rezoning DEB 2026-075, quasi-judicial hearing.
Good evening, Danielle Pettick, Principal Planner. This item was originally Paula's, and I'm taking it over for her, so apologies if I don't get it exactly right. So this is a request by Rob Merrill on behalf of Tanger Daytona to amend Interstate 95 LPGA Boulevard Retail, aka Tanger Outlets, Plan Development Agreement allowing the permanent additional use within the property special events as a temporary use, incorporating Section 5C special events with associated timing and compliance standards to the PD for formal adoption as a section in use within the PD. So this is located along Cornerstone Boulevard, east of Interstate 95. And it is developed with the Tanger Mall, as we're all well familiar with. It is interchange commercial future land use, and it is currently zoned as the Tanger Outlet PDG, or the I-95/LPJ Boulevard Retail PD. So this is the proposed permanent locations of their special event sites, which is included as an exhibit to the PD agreement. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. So as you can see here, it is limited in its locations. There's 3 separate locations. So just a little bit of history. In 2015, the PD agreement was approved for the mixed-use shopping center that is there today. In 2025, there was an amendment to the PD to allow special events to occur on the property, in particular locations previously shown, on a temporary basis for 12 months, for an opportunity to extend for an additional 12 months with a resolution, and that did occur. They extended it another 12 months just this past May, and now they have requested to make these special events permanent within the PD, with some clarifications to the language. So these are the LDC requirements of special events. They're also listed within the staff report, so I won't read them to you here, but it's basically about the timing, the limitations, how many you can have per year. So what this PD agreement is doing is basically giving specific allowances within this PD for their special events. And the reason they did it as temporary for a year with the 1-year extension was basically a trial basis to see how it worked, if it worked well on the site, and if the city commission could eventually make it permanent that they can do these special events as listed. So it is defined within the LDC, but there's also specific temporary events they would like to do, such as a farmer's market limited to 8 days a month, art and craft fairs, product showcase events, and activation by food or retail vendors. And there is the special event process they still have to go through, but it allows them to do this on the site. So the following provisions will also become permanent with additions as underlined. So these will now be permanently allowed within the PD for as long as it's active. So events held within designated locations that I previously shown without limitation to duration. So that's number of days per event per year an event may be held, which is a requirement of the LDC. So that would not be the case here. So there's no waiting period between these events. However, there will be a minimum of 48 hours between activities on the property. So it won't be like 365 days a year. If there is an event, they will have a 48-hour between the next one. So, however, they do want to add the provision that equipment associated with a bounce house or recreational use area may be stored on the property because according to them, it does take them a really long time to get this equipment on site and set it up. That won't be really allowed if they have to wait the 48 hours between the events as they occur. So just allowing those to stay on site for 45 days or less to allow for the setup and breakdown but that also requires the staging areas to be screened and for that information to be included in their special event request as reviewed by staff. So all the other things that were in the temporary special events will now be made permanent. The other provision, the city commission still retains the right to revoke the ability to host activities upon finding of good cause. And that's pretty much the only change were the two that I read to you. Everything else was in the temporary special events one, now being made permanent. So we do recommend approval of this one to the City Commission as outlined in the staff report and on this presentation that I did not read to you, apologies. And so it is tentatively scheduled to be heard by City Commission on September 2nd for first reading and second reading on September 16th. So there you go.
Any questions for staff?
I have a question.
May or may not be able to answer them.
Well, do we have an idea of how many events they have had in the last 12 months and how long each event lasted and have some sort of list?
Yeah, I believe
I know
they
that
had
was-
that. It wasn't as many as you would think. It wasn't constantly all year, but they did have a few of them.
Yeah, because those are some things I remember when we had a discussion prior we talked about.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
Yes.
I didn't see in your report success or failure
Yeah, so we did,
from the staff perspective.
yes, as far as we know, we haven't heard anything that has failed on the site. It's all been done like as they were supposed to do it. It's all been successful and no one's really been like negatively impacted. People seem to enjoy the events.
So
actually,
what does the staff consider to be successful? What events were successful?
If I might, Mr. Milton.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
We would say it's successful if it creates no trouble for us.
That's correct.
So you
And it
might
has
argue
not.
Bike Week is successful, but not. The point being, for our side of it, we give the property owner the freedom to try and market and utilize their property, increase the values, serve the community. And if they're able to do that, consistent with the other things around it, and it doesn't create an issue where Mr. Lee would have to have been involved in years past, that is successful from our perspective because we look at it as a regulator, almost as a landlord. If you have a quiet tenant, it's a good tenant. Got a noisy tenant, maybe not. Somewhat on that order in respect to success is how we judge it. Whether they think it's successful is their business model, if it helps to serve their business, and that's a different standard than the one we would use.
Why don't we let the applicant?
Yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry, one staff question though. On the point you were just making, is this good? When this went through, is this kind of a TRT type of approach? Did fire and police give you? Did they give any input?
It's TRT. It is a TRT reviewed item. We go through all that with the staff, everybody.
Yeah.
Police and fire didn't have any negative, and there hasn't been any history of trouble, as I've mentioned already.
Right.
So that from the perspective of community complaints or public service complaints. There was not either one.
Yeah, I figured those two entities would know first, probably.
They would.
Usually. And I've been to some of the events. They're great. They're not overwhelming for the area. They're positive.
Mr. Chair, Rob Merrill with Cobb Cole, 1 Daytona Boulevard. I've been asked to be here to allow Jessica to have a breather. So, two of you probably were drinking from a fire hose when you heard the presentation because you weren't here a year and a half ago, I think. And Tony, you were.
Yeah.
This is something we talked about at some length. And this is, if you recall back to 2015 when we came before you with this original request for the Tanger outlets, we talked about the idea that things are changing in the way shopping happens now. You know, as evidenced by the Volusia Mall, how it functions now versus how Tanger outlets work. It became a much more outdoor experience, right? And these guys have been doing what they've been doing for quite some time, but they were doing it on a very piecemeal basis. So a year and a half ago, we came up with a structure by which we could do this in an orderly way to do it, a way that the staff would look at it, both from a fire, a police, et cetera. And so the grading of it, if you will, that Jim was alluding to is really based on the criteria that we were to meet. And if we were found to be out of compliance with the requirements, then we were a problem, like Jim said. And that hasn't happened yet. So the city commission has since extended it for us to come back and make this permanent, essentially. It's something that they've done successfully. Everybody loves it. Like you said, we've all been there, and they do a great job of it. And I think it's been something that's added to the community. Shelley's here to give you the details if you want them, Tony. I mean, we've got lists of events, and I don't know whether you want to go through the whole thing, but
no, just a few things, highlights, and how many events
so
you've had.
I'm going to let her talk about that, but I want to say one thing, two things. One, by contrast to the previous agenda item that was before you, there was a new recommendation. I don't know that I heard the recommendation here, but I'll make sure I highlight it, which is a recommendation of approval, which has been something that we've been working on with the staff for a very long time. So these things have been received positively, completely. So there's no trees taken down. There's no bad things happening whatsoever on this. So come on up and let's talk about it a little more.
And Rob, the staff report was stated in the affirmative.
Yes, good. Just want to make sure of that.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shelley Sloan from Tanger Outlets, 1100 Cornerstone Boulevard in Daytona Beach. Just to give you a recap of the events that we've held so far in 2026, we have had 11 total events in the areas that we are talking about. Those included 5 food festivals, 2 circuses, and there were Cirque du Soleil type activities, 3 arts and craft fairs, and 1 of the bouncer activation, which she alluded to. These are generally family-friendly events. Most of them are free for the community to attend. And we are currently allotted 100 event days in a calendar year, and to date we have had 27 event days used.
Wow.
So, just to give you an idea.
Great.
What's the hours of operation?
I meant to say, sorry.
Sorry, these are generally held over a weekend. Some could be one day or
No, hours of operation.
hours of operation. It really depends on the activity.
Okay.
Some are held 10 to 3 all day.
Yeah.
It just really varies on the promoter and the type of event.
All right, thank you.
Where do you promote these events? Because I go to Tanger on a regular basis, being so close.
We generally promote them on our website through social media channels and things of that nature, and also on automobile signage throughout our property. We're actually hosting one this weekend on Saturday. It's a wing festival.
Oh, Wing Festival, yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And these are all.
Get your email address.
Well, within my community, I don't see your promotions unless I go to the Tanger outlet. I don't see it in the newspapers that my community reads. I don't see it on the community, I don't see the community exposure. If you're having a wing events or if you're having an event that the community would love, we would like to know about it. That's what I'm saying. So we can support it, or we can say, oh no, we don't want it here. So I don't know if it's selective promotion, and I believe you probably do because of your business, but I would like our community to be advised or to know about these events so we can support it and promote it and come out and say, wow, but I don't know,
I know it's all over Facebook.
I was just going to say, it's
Word of
all
mouth
over
with
Facebook.
Daytona. It's all over Facebook.
And it's in social,
Yeah.
it's in social media.
I do have
It's in
Facebook.
social
You're not
media,
old
it's in the news journal.
We don't.
They have
Who reads the news journal?
Huh?
Who reads the news journal?
Well, you know, if you're in the community, and my thing is this, if you're in the community and you want to know what's going on in the community, you got to get engaged in the social media atmosphere to be able to know what's going on. Because I read it in the Facebook,
Yeah.
in the news journal.
It's all over.
It's
yeah.
all over.
So before you do, I said I was going to say two things, and I said one, and I sat down. And she mentioned, I want to reiterate, we had a long discussion last time, it's been a year and a half ago, before you guys were here, about, well, can they just do it all year long, and shouldn't there be some limitation? We actually did, as a result of that conversation, limit it to 100 days per year, so less than a third of the time. And as you said, it's been 27. So
I just want to know how you know I was drinking from a water hose, but that's fine.
I tell you, she just talks really fast like I do, and I heard her just going and it was a lot of stuff. And you guys, I'm sure, reviewed the report, but you didn't have the history.
Yeah.
That we spent a lot of time talking about this.
We did. And
Yeah.
Brad, the question I have for you is during these special events for traffic, are there additional law enforcement personnel over there? How is it managed? I mean, what kind of impact we've had? Because it's already crowded and congested out there. And to have these events, how are we managing it?
It depends on the type of event, and that really is dependent on what the city requires, because they all have to fill out the special
the city,
permit.
okay.
Yes, the city has to determine what is needed.
So they will determine whether you need additional law
It
enforcement?
depends
or
on the
whoever.
type of event. Yeah.
Okay, and then the 3 locations that you're looking at, are they're more to the sides, I guess, of the property? So
We
they
have
don't put-
3 parking areas that we've designated for those special events, and they have to indicate
Yeah, I
that
saw
on
that.
the special event permit when they're applying for it, of which area it is. They also have to provide egress and ingress reports, and also reports to police and fire, so they know that those are happening at that time.
Okay, so you still get the
You
permit?
have to
That's what I
have
want
that
know.
permission.
Okay.
So
Are you
we had-
guys-
when Jim and I were talking about the fire and the police and the TRT looking at it, we look at each one of these. We show a plan
understand.
for what's happening exactly, who needs fire, who needs police. So I shouldn't have been so quickly through that process,
No, we've
but that
been
is
through-
a process on
Yeah.
each one of these events.
Yeah, and I understand we went through this and we talked about it at length before. It's just that when you have that many more people in a certain geographical area, there has to be a little more control. So I just want to make
We
sure.
want them.
Mr. Merrill, I'd like to address, Tony was the chair, Mrs. Washington was president, and I was present also when we talked about this.
Yep.
So to just let you know.
Oh, yeah, I remember. I guess what I said was, you were here, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
was
that's why I
I.
said everybody, but I think these two folks were not.
Right.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, because Mr. Robertson, you were talking about your neighborhood and everything, but are you going to be offering for small business owners free to go ahead and bring their business into these festivals?
Again, that is, we actually contract with the promoter to bring these in, so they're actually
Okay.
renting the space from Tanger to host these activities.
Okay, so it's the promoter
Right,
itself.
exactly.
Okay.
Can I look at?
I was gonna say, just to know that they're having the Wing Festival this weekend.
I know.
And one of the small businesses on Martin Luther King, Saute King, is participating in that particular event. So they do get exposure.
Yeah, they do get
And
exposed.
they go out and participate too.
So we know Tony's going to be there.
I think Tony likes wings.
Question on page 87 in your project details. You talk about the LDC as limitations. And I go down to F.
Hang on a second, just let me catch up to you.
This is page 4 of 8, or page 287 of
So
287.
they don't give it with the same numbers as you have?
Oh, really?
So let me just, tell me the paragraph.
I'm looking at 4 of 8 on this, where it talks about the project details. Page 2 of 8.
Walk me there slowly based on the paragraph numbers.
Paragraph F on the project details.
Yes, I got it.
F.
I got it.
4 of 8.
Okay.
Got it?
You're asking for, you said, events, the proposed the first bullet on the F was that the proposed PD amendment permanently modifies those timing limitations as follows. Events held within the designated locations will occur without limitation to duration.
So there are limits to the duration, but So
Yeah.
let me go back. So
Yeah,
if you look
because-
at the actual rule book on this, it says total of, how many days total per? Yeah. No, this. So that's 100 total days.
Yeah.
With a 48-hour break in between any event.
But doesn't this contradict what you just?
This is, so let me back up. So without getting to the details of it, this is exactly what you guys approved a year and a half ago. And we've been doing.
Without limitations? No, this is saying right here that events held with a designated location
I know, that's
will
what I'm saying.
occur without limitation.
Correct. So you're
But
reading the
further
code.
on, you said
We changed it to what
To-
you have now. and We've been operating based on not the code that you're reading from. We'd said that this is different than what you've been doing in the city. And we said, let us give it a try. And you said, okay, we'll give you a year. And if you're having too many black marks, we won't be able to let you go forward. We did perfect record on this thing, and everybody loved it. So we're sticking with the same plan that was approved, that you guys made a recommendation of approval for.
Yes, I was here.
You were here.
Yeah, but we did not say no limitations.
You did.
But this
You said 100-day total.
100 days.
Right.
But this is not telling me 100 days. This is
Yeah, I
telling me,
That's the code. You're
Okay.
reading the code.
is that what you're doing?
That's what you're reading here, the code.
That the proposed PD amendment?
But that's not what we're approving. I think that's his concern. His concern is that we're approving what's written right here in this staff report, and that it's in contradiction of what you're saying. The limitation is actually 100 days.
It is 100 days.
Okay.
Yes.
Staff?
Is that, Mr. Robinson, was that
Yeah, I don't-
where you're,
I
what
don't
you're
know.
getting at?
So-
Yeah, there's
maybe
two
staff
contradiction, there's a
interpret the
contradiction here.
Yeah, so it says in the actual language 100 days. So the staff report may have been misspoken. So good point.
Yes, so the staff report is just a summary of what the amendment is. It's not the actual language of the summary. So that is what City Commission will review. And I believe that is where the limitation is, right?
So you will include a 100 days
That includes
limitation?
100 days.
It is already included in the proposal, Mr.
Oh,
Melton.
okay. I
It
apologize.
just wasn't in the report.
Yeah, I used to read legal reports.
Yeah. There's always a lot of pages in these things. Does that got you covered, Milverton?
Yeah, as long as we understand that there is a limitation.
That's
I
the
wouldn't want you to have
limitation.
a circus. If you're gonna have a circus,
Well,
fine, just put it in there.
Somebody had said 365. That's why I jumped up and said, no, it is 100 days. So,
Okay,
yep.
all right.
Anything else, guys?
No. No.
Thank you.
Mr. Morris, unless some,
Any speakers?
I just had a question for staff real fast. It's just a point of clarification. We were talking about the fire and police activity and how does it determine that people, whether there's going to be that activity there or not. And I'm assuming it's still the same. When it goes through staff review, it's based on the amount of projected attendees will dictate how much police presence is needed or fire or EMS, that type of stuff.
Yeah, if I may, I'm going to answer the question in the context of things you're used to dealing with, and I'll be a little broader. So when Mr. Lee was at the police department, they dealt with special events. They looked at projected impact, how much fire and police would be needed. We emphasize that same process now in a normal permitting process where they turn in and notify. The difference between special events as you knew them and as we see them during Bike Week is that they're individually applied for,
Right.
allowed only during certain times of the year. This has been an evolutionary process in that they first proposed it and initially the staff said no. Then there was an idea to try a few, which they did that first a couple of times, does seem to work. And the amendment that came first that allowed the year time period that's been referenced occurred. It was successful. And in order to, this actually helps both the property owner and the city staff in respect to an established process with an established practice that you can do things that are help the community in a standard process with limits on time. And it's evolutionary in that way. This is the third evolution actually of how to get there. I think this might reflect well on some other things y'all have been worried about on other subjects in respect to it's this and one day it'll be that and there's no evolution from here to there. This is actually from here to there in an evolutionary state.
Yeah, I like that aspect of it. I also like the aspect that the city becomes aware of what's going on instead of things just being allowed to be done without any review.
They have to give us notice and we are aware of them.
Okay.
Less surprises that way.
So you can, in fact, since it's only for 10 days or 5 days or whatever the duration is, the city does
We're
have.
not regulating the time so long as they are within the limits of the overall time period.
Okay, gotcha.
We are concerned about the nature of the action and if it creates a trouble or if there's extra things that need to be done.
Okay.
I work with the Peabody a lot, and we have different amounts of law enforcement depending upon the nature of the event. That's the same thing here.
Okay.
Okay, I make a make a recommendation, we approve Plan Development General PD G rezoning Second Amendment DV 2026-075 Interstate 95 LPGA Boulevard Retail Plan Development District PD.
Second. I'll second it.
There's a second, and could I have a vote? Everybody say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Opposed? 7-0.
Motion carries.
Motion carried.
7-0.
Oh, my God.
I got your back.
Whoa.
I got your back. Got your back.
Are we ready for 4F?
We're ready for 4F.
Zen Vista Apartments Site Plan, DEV 2025-083 Quasi Judicial Hearing.
Good evening, Planning Board. Once again, this is Luke Rinkus, presenting Zen Vista Apartments. So this is a request by Melissa Malik of Meta World Civil Consulting LLC on behalf of Majestic Oaks, Daytona, Florida, for approval of a major site plan to construct a multifamily development on a vacant 5.24 acre lot consisting of 84 units along with the associated parking and drainage infrastructure. The site is on the west side of South Nova Road, which is a major thoroughfare in the city. There's the site right now. The future land use is level 2 residential, which will not be changing. The current conditions are vacant on the property. And it is zoned for multifamily residential 20, which, like the future land use, is remaining. The proposed development will be 69,904 square feet and 3 stories with 84 units. 135 parking spaces are provided with 168 required. And this is due to a 20% reduction in parking. It is requested for the preservation of historic trees. So staff recommends the approval of Zen Vista Apartments major site plan application to develop a multifamily development on a vacant 5.24 acre lot consisting of 3 buildings and 84 units, along with the associated parking and drainage infrastructure. A majority vote of the planning board members present and voting is required to approve the site plan.
Question, traffic. I'm really concerned, are they gonna put a light or something in that area between those 2 major thoroughfare? I've known several accidents and things that happen in that, just right there. Are there any improvement planned for this? And I'm looking at the ingress, egress also. Are they gonna, the safety issue is my concern.
Mr. Barhu, if the applicant could address that, but I will tell you that it is a driveway permit required from DOT. It's right in, right out. The medians are broken, and you're near the intersection of Bellevue and Nova, so you're signalized there. Yes, sir. But they'll be able to speak to that further in respect to the substance of your question.
Okay, thank you.
Will they also address the flooding issue?
Yes, sir, they will.
Okay.
Any other questions? May we hear from the applicant?
Hello. Thank you for hearing us. Amir Malik, Meta World Engineering, 3930 South Nova Road, Port Orange. Basically, I'm just here to answer the questions you had asked about the
safety issues. I have a real concern about safety issues. I've known several folks in that area to have gotten hurt or killed or just in that little strip there. So I was just concerned about the safety issue for the pedestrians, for the folks that may be living there.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's a FDOT controlled roadway, so there's no median opening in front of us.
Right.
It's a right in, right out. So in terms of driveway safety, it's about as safe as it gets. As far as the pedestrian safety, it's pretty much the same as anywhere else.
Yeah, because the sidewalk and everything is already established.
It has connectivity to come in. I suppose if they needed to, if they wanted to, they could come in
Yeah, and again, my concern is I've seen, I've known folks that actually have gotten hurt in that area. Folks running a light, coming through the light, you're right on the corner, going around. It's just one of those things that's, and I understand as long as there's sufficient visibility, I guess,
Sure. The site triangle would be there, and it's far enough away from the intersection
right.
coming down. So, there should be enough time to visibly check and make sure that there's non-obstruction coming.
Okay.
Because they're going to have to meet all the DOT requirements.
Right. Understood.
And that's the only thing that they have to do.
Yeah.
I would be more questionable about the flooding.
Yeah.
How are you going to mitigate the flooding issues in that area?
Well, we meet the flood zone compensation requirements. We actually exceed what is there in its present state. Essentially, we've got a walled pond in the back that lowers the existing ground and then offers the space to come up all the way beyond the base flood elevation. So, we provide room to basically compensate for what we take. In addition, there's a culvert that crosses into the Nova Canal that exists on the site today, but it comes over and it's completely surrounded by soil. What we're going to be doing is opening a channel directly to the pond, so it'll be able to backfill on a regular basis, not only in giant.
I mean, that's going to be a plus and a minus. When the canal overflows, it's going to backflow into that's the main issue.
Sure. From my understanding, the flat gates are on the FDOT culvert. So.
But you might consider some type of backflow device on there, in your engineering plans. Just a suggestion.
Sure.
Yeah. So with the flood, and I know again many folks in that area that have been flooded across the street from that. I mean, the whole area is just a low area. I mean,
yeah, it's a little river.
The whole Nova Road, pretty much. And so, what else is being done? I guess I would ask to ensure that again, once you put that building there, the property, the water doesn't spill over into other properties and make their property worse than what it is.
Okay. I mean, I don't have the grading plan to show you, but essentially what we've done is there's an area that's
in the back,
kind of a mount. Yeah, this is in the back, but
okay.
If you're coming from Nova, you come and there's the roadway, and then there's kind of a mound in order to get to the back of the site.
Right.
What we're doing to enhance that is we're creating the ability to get that back there, earlier by getting rid of the mound in terms of how the water would flow. Because we've created a channel that it can get there via the side on the southern side of the property.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for you too. I thought he was finished. Are you finished? In this addition, is that from you guys? Is this?
I wrote that.
Oh, you wrote that.
Ms. Paris, Commissioner Paris has questions? I replied to her and provided the additional information so the planning board would have the additional questions being asked by a commissioner and the responses. It's not her intent to communicate with you or mine to give you her communication, but rather to look at how questions she asked were addressed because I thought it supplemented the information that you have.
Oh, because I was concerned about on page 2, in market rate versus affordable rate.
And that was a question that Commissioner Paris particularly had, about whether it was market rate or affordable rate.
Mm-hmm.
And the affordable that you have seen created in the city or main required in the city has been part of PD requests. And PD requests ordinarily have a requirement that you show the benefit to the community.
Mm-hmm.
The commission has had a standard of, I think, 10% on that in terms of units yielded. This property is zoned for the use. It is not a rezoning. It is a site plan. And the nature of the site plan is that it is not the same standard for zoning, whether or not you think it's a good idea or not, but the question is whether or not the site plan meets the standards that the city imposes for something to be approved. And it isn't a policy question, and they're not asking for relief from anything in respect to the zoning where PDs ordinarily do that. The PD is a special format, and that's where you have seen those. I was distinguishing that for Commissioner Paris because you might first say, well, why isn't it here? There is a difference in the nature of this request than the ones you've seen that the affordable was addressed in the zoning requirements.
So the affordable issue would be addressed in the zoning requirement, is that what you're saying?
It will. If it's not a zoning requirement, a typical requirement in straight zoning, you don't have it in any other zonings. In PDs, those are contracts for particular uses done a particular way. And when it's been residential, the commission in the last 3 or 4 years at least has had that policy as it relates to PDs. But that is not in the standard zoning code in any place. And it actually would be improper to put it into this.
But, so can I ask the applicant about their affordability?
You are able to ask any question
Oh,
you
good.
wish.
Well, let's talk about affordability. And would you be objectionable then to have affordable?
I couldn't speak to that. I represent my client who, I'm the engineer, not an
Oh,
attorney.
your client is not here?
They are not here.
Oh, so.
I would say from Commissioner Paris's perspective, I think the person she was being inquired of did not want to have affordable there.
Oh, that makes a difference.
From a land use perspective, it does.
From the benefit to the community perspective, it does make a difference.
Yes, sir, but we're dealing with land use issues,
Okay.
not policy issues.
Okay. So that means I cannot consider that.
I will yield to the city attorney on that question.
Mr. Attorney.
That's not a criteria for a site plan approval.
Okay.
And I think that's what Mr. Morse was trying to explain is that his explanation to Commissioner Paris was that that would be something that might be considered if they were here for a PD rezoning, or you were considered something like the benefit to the community. They've already got the zoning. They're not asking for a change in zoning. They're just here for a site plan approval. So the criteria are set forth in the staff report. They meet the criteria based upon the evidence you've seen here today. That's what your decision should be based upon.
Okay.
Is there any other questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I ask for a motion.
I make a motion that we pass this Zine Vista Apartment Site Plan, DEV 2025-083, quasi judicial hearing.
Second.
After hearing a second, could we have a vote by saying aye?
All in favor, say aye.
Opposed?
No.
It passes 6-1.
Well, it's like a. A protest vote.
Item number 4G, the Brown rezoning to plan development, General PDG DEV 2026-074, quasi judicial hearing.
It's been a while, Planning Board.
Yeah.
My name is Luke Rinkus. My name is Luke Rinkus. I'm presenting item 4G. This is for the Brown PD. This is a request by Jessica Gow of Cobb Cole and Associates on behalf of CCN Hyatt Brown Museum of Art and the Museum of Arts and Sciences, Inc. They are the property owners to rezone 62.9 acres from multifamily residential 12, single-family residential 5, and tourist office retail T4 zoning to a PD to establish a unified museum campus with supporting components. You can see the site location there along South Nova Road. The future land use, which is currently a mixture of parks and recreation and level 1 residential. And the aerial view, you can see that its majority is vacant, but there are some parts of it that are the existing campus. The zoning right now is SFR 5, MFR 12, and T4, which would, under the proposed changes, would all be PDG. Rezoning to the plan development to allow for the redevelopment of the property to accommodate the CCN Hyatt Brown Museum of Art, Science, and History, which is also known as the Brown. And the PD would allow for the Museum of Arts and Sciences to expand its campus, supporting its role as a cultural landmark in the city. Here's a rendering of the side of the building that will be facing Nova Road. Staff recommends approval to rezone 62.9 acres from multifamily residential 12, single-family residential 5, and tourist office retail T4 to Plan Development General to establish a unified museum campus with supporting components for the Brown. A majority vote for the planning board members present and voting is required to forward a recommendation to the City Commission.
Thank you. Is there any questions for staff?
I think this is actually very exciting.
Thank you. We hear from the applicant.
I'll start with that.
Yeah.
So I'm not Jessica Gow. She's still catching her breath. Rob Merrill for the record with Cobb Cole, 1 Daytona Boulevard. You know, I've done probably hundreds of zoning cases in front of this body, and some of them are just cases. And then others are celebrations of really exciting, special things that happen for us. You guys know the Museum of Arts and Sciences. You know, I think you know, and I hope you've been to CC and Hyatt Brown's museum.
Awesome.
These are things that, you know, when I'm talking to people from other places about us, you know, the Speedway's there, obviously, the beach is there. This is right there in that top three. And what's happening here is taking it to an entirely new level. So Tabitha's here, and she's going to give you a beautiful presentation. She's the star of the show. I'm just the guy who's the lawyer telling you about the process. But as Luke said, this is a process where we've had some different projects and different parcels that we've accumulated over the time, and now we're putting them in one plan. And you guys have done PDs. I don't have to lecture you about PDs. You understand what it is. It's a graphic plan and a written agreement that says what you can and can't do there. So we've decided that the best way to do this, because once you see the video, you'll understand, it needs to be a package and come forward as a really big, exciting package and a plan. And I think you're going to love it. So with that, let's let Tabitha do the important part of the presentation, and then we'll answer any questions you guys have, including Mr. Bobby Ball, who you know is also a star of the show.
Thanks, Rob. Hi, I'm Tabitha Schmidt. I'm the CEO of now the Brown, formerly the Museum of Arts and Sciences. So thank you for having us here tonight. In 2024, I was hired in 2022, and in 2024, the museum did a master plan. Took 7 months, really thought about the campus. What did we want to see for the future? And during that process is when CC and Hyatt were very inspired and came forward with what ultimately turned into a $203 million gift for the future of the museum. So a majority of this, about $145 million, is set aside for the capital project, which you're going to see here in a few minutes. The remainder then is to grow our endowment so we can take care of this beautiful gift. And so we're currently raising money in the community, but they have committed $75 million for a 3-to-1 match to help us do this. This is unheard of, and the fact that it's happening here is really spectacular.
Yes, it is.
When they came forward with the gift, we had been talking about our brand, we'd been talking about our name. People who'd lived here their whole lives didn't even know the museum was here or back there. So we knew we had an issue, and so we approached CC and Hyatt about changing the name and honoring them. This happens in the museum world all the time. The Guggenheim, the Perez, you've seen this happen. So that's where it came from, and now what the vision is the 63-acre site is the Brown. Everything that happens on the campus is the Brown. We remain an art, science, and history museum, and we're doing all three, which is unusual in the museum world, but we have a rare opportunity to seize the day, for lack of a better word. So I want to show you guys this. It's about a 3-minute animation of what we plan to build, and then I'll give you a little more detail about what's going on inside.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went through the master planning, there were two big things that really changed how we thought about the future of the museum. First thing is that we had kept hearing that we were a hidden gem. So we decided, well, we don't want to be a hidden gem anymore. We want to be a crown jewel. And so with that, you've seen that the building will be moved up, the new build up on Nova Road. It will be connected to the existing Brown Museum through a welcome center experience. So when you walk in, you will go to the north wing or the south wing. The entire thing will be under one roof, which will really be a boon for the visitors because our campus is big. Do we have the map? Okay. We have an aerial that I wanted to show a few things. The other thing that we really thought about is that we wanted to go from what we considered ourselves to be a hub to an anchor in the community. And we know we won't be as big as the beaches or maybe as NASCAR, but we want to be in the same conversation. And we want people to come and say, you must do, you have to see. So that is part of the vision here. What you're looking at is an aerial of the main part of the property. So Nova is up on the front end. In front of the new building is a reflection pond. The drive stays the same. You come around, the parking has been consolidated. There's about 232 spots for public parking, employee ADA off to the side. There's a roundabout drop off to the main entrance, that connector piece. As part of the plan, we're also building an over 10,000 square foot collection storage facility in the back of Brown to house the collection and take care of the collection. In the new build, then the one right there in the center, it's a full 2 stories. The bottom floor contains a featured traveling exhibition gallery, a large event hall space, the sphere that you saw in the video, which is the centerpiece, the kind of iconic part of the building. And the lower half of the sphere is a brand new children's experience, about 6,000 square feet, with science as the dominant thing, but also the visual arts in it. 2 new classrooms, visible storage, and around the sphere is about 12,000 square feet of concourse that can be exhibit space, event space. It can be programmed a lot of ways. On the second floor then is where our permanent galleries will go. So the Root family collection, you saw the Coke in there, that will go up there. Our sloth and the natural history, that will be expanded. And then we'll have an international gallery of art and design where we showcase our non-American art and historical objects. The top of the sphere is a brand new 60-foot tilted dome planetarium. The current one is 40 foot with 94 seats. The new one will have 200 seats. So expansion in every way, shape, and form. As part of this, every gallery, including the galleries in the Brown Museum, are all being redesigned and rethought. We have expert designers, exhibit designers with us working on this. This is really a spectacular, and as someone, I was hired, nobody knew we were going to be doing this when I was hired. And museum directors don't get to do this. So I feel very, very fortunate that I get to be a part of this. So I think I've kind of hit on the highlights. The other thing I would point out is that we are taking full advantage of the Tuscaloosa Preserve. We're going to be pulling a path along and have a couple of observation decks. It will reconnect to the education pavilion in the back. We really want to lean into the environmental education, and the dominant plantings are natives, Florida, very much about the flora and fauna in our part of the world. So with that, okay.
We're here for questions, Dave.
Yes.
I think it's an awesome project. It's a really cool thing for Daytona Beach to be able to receive and be part of. I guess, and excuse my ignorance, because I don't work in a museum, but what does that change for the museum as far as, is that open doors? Is this something that opens doors to other exhibits that will be able to come through? How will the city benefit from that? Yeah.
That's a great question. Well, first of all, I think the community will just benefit on how we display the permanent collection that we house here. So the way we think about, we're going to be rotating more often. We want to bring things out. We also, with the featured traveling exhibit space, we intend to do 3 rotating major exhibits a year. Sometimes we rent a show and it comes in, we pay for it. Other times we curate some things in-house. We are looking at trying to establish an annual tradition that the community, we think, will grow and feel very beloved in the community. We're still in the early stages of that. The planetarium is, I consider it a living exhibit space, right? So the shows constantly change. One of the things that, because we're an art, science, and history museum, we're really leaning into the cross-disciplinary nature of what we do. If you saw our Audubon exhibit, perfect example of art, science, and history all wrapped into one exhibit. Yeah, and the great thing about the planetarium is it can just change their show. It can change the topic to match whatever we decide, you know what, let's talk about dinosaurs over the next 4 months. Let's talk about rocket ships, whatever. We can bring all of that forward. The children's interaction, it's very interactive. There's a lot of technology, a lot of modern, contemporary ways of interpreting. The children's space, I don't have the exact number, but our past museum for kids had about 32 interactives. This one will have over 50. So there's a lot happening inside of this space. You won't be able to do it all in one day, I'll say that.
I have a question. As far as the educational component of there, will there be a charge, or would you partner with Volusia County schools, other schools, try to promote some of this stuff, and especially share some with the young folks? How will that work?
Yeah, well, so great question. So we already, thanks to Lola and Nancy Lohman, do a field study program with all Volusia County School 5th and 8th graders. They fund that. So that is really amazing. And it's actually moving test scores in the right direction. We do a free day, first Tuesdays of every month. We do for free for all Volusia County residents. We intend to continue to do that. We're always open to partnering and finding funding to bring more people in and engage more. We are working to grow our capacity. We're building a docent program. In order to serve more people, you have to find really talented volunteers to help you sometimes when you're a nonprofit. But we're very open to growing that.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking, of course, so we have a private school and so forth. I want to give those kids those same experiences. So 5th graders and 8th graders, whether they're private, public, would still fall in that same category?
Yeah, we will offer tours for anyone, adult groups, children, all of it. I should also note, I think it's good to note that inside the children's experience, what we haven't had, we're going to add a early childhood quadrant. This will be for birth to 4. We've been working with the Early Learning Coalition on this. Keep those kids safe, kind of out of the way of the big kids, and have their own little space that's focused on their gross motor development.
That is great.
I know myself, I've been to the art museum, and we go regular to see the changes. The grandchildren, when they would come, of course, my grandchildren are all graduating from college now.
But you still like art.
That's right.
But I think it's, I've heard whispers, and, this is happening, and I'm so glad. I think that
project.
Every person in Daytona Beach should be proud of this, and this is a great accomplishment for the Browns. Really is. It will be. It's a real change.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I will. Thought you didn't get away, didn't you? I like your presentation. I like your the building and the effect it's going to have in the area. I want to talk about the cultural aspect of it and the historical aspect of it. How do you decide? I know that you have the last word on who or what goes into the museum. Do you have a committee of local residents that decide or advised as to the cultural or the historical aspect of what you exhibit? How do you decide on those exhibits?
Are you talking about our temporary exhibits, things we bring in? And so there's kind of 2 parts to this. So first, the primary focus is our permanent collection.
Okay.
So what is going on view is it's going to be the best of what the museum has in its collection. We also have a lot of endowments, a lot of legal documents that dictate certain things that we have to honor when we accepted those collections. So we're working through all of that. Culturally, the wonderful thing about the temporary featured exhibit space is that we get to change the conversation all the time. So, for example, before all this happened, we had leased a show called Kimono, which was a whole thing about the Japanese kimono and how it inspired, sculpture. And we were talking to Disney about a Star Wars connection because the clothes in Star Wars were inspired by kimono. So it's just one example of how we can bring in a whole new conversation, introduce a culture or something from history. And our intent is to really be diverse and varied in everything we do. It just, sometimes we get a show because they call us and they have a good deal. But what we're really trying to work towards is at least 3, if not 5 years ahead of time, knowing what's coming. So we have a lot of lead time on marketing and fundraising and making sure people know. I like where you're going with this because it is common, and I'd like to see us do this. As we start to pick shows or look at shows, bring in constituencies who have a connection to those shows and have them as advisors in it. It is done in the museum world. We haven't been able to do it yet, but is something that we aspire to.
Okay. Thank you.
Good idea.
Thank you. You were nervous, weren't you?
Would someone like that?
Yeah.
Make a motion?
I'd like to-
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to make
We
a
have
motion.
one speaker.
John Nicholson. Oh, yeah, we have a speaker.
I'm ready to vote.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John.
No problem. I'll just call you Edith Shelley. John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. When I saw this in the paper, it was just like, nah, I don't like it because they were going to, again, bulldoze all the trees. You don't realize that we have 3 programs, Florida Forever, Volusia Forever, and we just extended Volusia Forever. Now, Daytona Beach contributes like $20 million a year to these programs. And we've only, out of the $60 million or so that we've contributed so far, gotten back $750,000, right? So we're basically a donor. And of that $750,000, this is the land that we bought with that money to preserve it in trees with only a roadway to get back to the museum. Because what happened was the museum was way in the back. Nobody knew it. So they wanted a presence on Nova Road. So we got the present and then no more money after that. So I'm kind of sensitive with the idea that we're preserving trees. Well, guess what? CC and Hyatt Brown Museum went in and they bulldozed all those trees on half of it. Now they're coming in and they're going to bulldoze all the ones on the second half of it. So there'll be no trees left in the front. Well, when you look at it, yeah, we're going to lose our trees, but they're going to restore it in the back, right? Which is really where the crux of it is. That's where the marsh is. That's where all the really interesting trees are. Secondly, Hyatt and CC, they don't get enough thank yous, really. This puts them over $500 million in gifts. If you remember when they were doing the Riverwalk, the Esplanade, started out at 15 million. It's at 36.5 now. It's a little bit above, all right? This thing started at 150 million. It's now at what, 203? God only knows what it's going to be when it's done, all right? When people are that generous, and when it comes out to be this dynamic,
yes,
you guys are too young, except for Kathy, of course. But
thanks a lot.
well, you've been here since the 1990s, so
You can make a motion to deny him.
right, yes.
And I'll
But-
second it.
She remembers the Guggenheim, all right? When that went in, everybody hated it. They thought it was ugly. And now it's considered a gem.
Yeah.
When you look at this, to me, it reminds me of the Guggenheim. It really does. So I think we're getting a iconic building.
Oh, yes.
And I want to publicly thank again
I'm not
the
gonna stop.
Hyatt and CC Brown from
Yes.
all the residents of the city of Daytona Beach. Thank you.
They have been jewels.
Thank you. I wasn't going to stop him on that. I'll let him speak. Okay, could I hear a motion?
Sure, I make a motion to approve agenda item 4G, DEV 2026-074, the Brown PDG.
I second that motion.
Could I hear
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. And thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to that.
That'd be nice. Nice project.
Oh
Rock and roll. Aye.
I know.
Item,
Okay,
item
next
number,
item.
item 411. Oh, 4-8. I
4-8.
apologize. I can barely see that. Daytona State College Large Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment, LSCPA, DEV 2023-221, legislative hearing.
Just so you guys know, I didn't receive 4H. I received 4I.
It's 4I.
4H has a request to be continued to the next meeting.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So we just need a motion to continue the item to the next meeting.
So
I make a motion that 4H Daytona State College Large Scale Comprehension Plan Amendment DEV 2023-221 continue it until the next session.
Second. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried 7-0.
Okay. Aye. Washington?
Item number 441.
4H.
4I.
Looks like 41 to me. Daytona State College Overlay Land Development Code, LDC, text amendment, DEV 2023-233, legislative hearing.
Who's here?
Is anyone from?
Yes, sir. This is the regulations that would be put in place when the overlay district is established. This property essentially east of White Street over towards the backside of the shopping center that fronts on Nova Road. And then it goes, and then goes up to, what's the northern extreme, Ron? It's done. The northern extreme is done.
Done.
And yes, ma'am. And so this is to take into account the potential expansion of Daytona State and the UCF campus. And a part of the thinking, I had some discussion with Rob and his folks, 2-3 years ago now, in respect to when you look at the University of Florida, particularly the north side, the way things kind of transited without a plan in that area. And we thought from the perspective of Daytona State and the way it's grown from its inception till now,
Yes.
that it was only fair to take a look at how it serves the community, what the natural break point would be. And I think to the east, certainly the backside of the shopping center that exists on the corner of Nova and 92 is a natural break point. Done in part because of the Mary Carl properties to the north and the way the college has used some of those lands is a natural northern boundary. And it gives fair warning to people in the community as to what the intentions over the longer term would be. I think there's a fair argument that it probably improves the value for homes that are there in that it's a transitional area, and that's obvious, but you can see what the apparent use of the property would be and who the apparent buyer of the property would be as time goes along and people decide to change. And the majority of the neighborhood that's affected between the current place of the college on White over to the back of the shopping center is a mix anyway. There's doctors' offices, other offices back in there, and some residential. And just from the perspective of where it naturally goes, I think it naturally goes to the expansion of the college, which is a community benefit to everyone here. And that's the nature of the idea. And I think then Rob and his folks can speak to the regulations that are proposed.
Rob, you have an expression on your face.
No. I'm gonna start by saying I'll be brief because I know it's been a long night, you guys. But some of these have been really ones that we're excited about. So Rob Merrill again for the record, Cobb Cole, 1 Daytona Boulevard. This has really been a collaborative thing with your staff over quite some time, as Jim's been talking about. I would say that to start, I've been in the 40 or so years that I've been doing this, involved in kind of a piecemeal, in some ways, approach to the expansion of the other universities. Bethune-Cookman, I've been involved in some of that when it was getting bigger in different places, and sort of a one at a time we did it. Same with Embry-Riddle. You know, we had pieces that came in. Of course, you've seen the major expansion that's happened really in all the universities, all the colleges in the 40 years I've been dealing with this. And we decided that there ought to be a structure for this, for the planning purposes. So we created this overlay. That's what this is about. And it puts the building blocks in place for how, when the college is getting bigger, in this case, you know, Daytona State has acquired other properties and that haven't been built on yet, some of them. So we wanted to come up with a framework for how that would happen as we come forward. And that's all this is, basically, is giving you a planning tool. And, you know, again, like I said, we've worked with city staff to come up with this. It's initiated by Daytona State because of the fact that we have some expansion that we're doing right now. But a lot of the planning that happens and the implementation of it happens at a state level because they're a state institution that is sort of their own island in a zoning world to some extent. But we wanted it to be a collaborative thing with the city and sort of stay in communication about how it's going to happen. And that's what this is about. I think we're all big supporters of the universities.
And I would say, just as an addition, we've worked together for things that are happening now, like the athletic field that's going to be there undone. We had a fair amount of debate in terms of lighting and hours of use and those kind of things to try and be sensitive to the interface between existing homes and other things in the neighborhood and the activities that would occur at the school. And, you know, when you look at Bethune-Cookman with their practice field, different way it was done there, but we dealt with that as well, kind of in a tighter space. And it was kind of a lesson as to how to try and approach this one as Daytona State came forward. Nothing against the Bethune-Cookman facility.
No,
It's
but I think
magnificent, but it's a tight fit.
In that situation, it was mostly traffic. You know, the neighborhood, you know, was scared of, well, is it going to create more traffic? But this is letting the neighborhood know, in my opinion, that there is going to be expansion.
Yeah, and I looked at that field, I thought they were going to put a cemetery across the street. Light up cemetery. But how does that interface also with the blind services and so forth? Would they, I mean, complement, I guess they'll kind of complement.
They own that
They own
building.
Oh, they don't? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of properties right around that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, some of the lots. Okay.
So my question is if you're a property owner in this area and we establish this change in the code that establishes an overlay area, how does that impact you as a property owner?
You're not non-conforming. You're not caused to go out. It just gives you notice and your subsequent purchasers a notice of the possible expansion of the college. It doesn't mandate it and doesn't make anybody quit doing anything that they are doing. It's still free market in terms of whether the college acquires property or not. And it's recognition of a transition in the area. And when you think back to how small it was Daytona Beach Junior College.
Right.
And it is now, it's grown substantially, and it's been in some ways independent with the college doing effectively what it wanted to do. And of course, the Mary Carl property goes back to the World War II era. And it was a nursing school, I think, out there at one time, and some other educational facilities and World War II rehab. And it's all kind of fitted into that area. And as it relates to the neighborhood, it's a neighborhood that is in transition because a fair amount of it, substantial part has been taken in offices and those sort of things. So you got mixed use there now with just a school, I think, imminently looking at going all the way to the back of the shopping center.
So if you own a property in there and you apply for something like a change on the property, is this going to limit their current existing uses?
Well, right now, the uses that are there, as far as I can remember from the neighborhood, and I've been through the neighborhood a lot, is residential, professional office with some veneer of banking and other office facilities on ISP.
On ISP.
Yeah, and that would be the mixture of uses you would expect to have there. So in terms of, I'm not sure if you could give me a hypothetical of what would go, let's say, you buy 4 houses, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I was thinking more of, let's say, you bought a house and it was in poor condition. You had to tear it down and apply to build a new house. Does it prevent you from doing that?
No, it would not.
Or if you Or, yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of answered the question, but like if you were going to add a second story to a house and we want to come in and apply to
You
it.
can do it. It's not a non-conforming
Yeah.
use. It's a
Okay.
permitted conforming use.
So Captain Lee, I'll say this, you're raising a great question, but I meant to say, and I apologize, we did have a big meeting with the neighborhood. A lot of people showed up and they asked those questions.
Yeah.
So those were important questions that we had to answer for them. And I think for the most part, we got everybody settled with what we were doing.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand for myself,
No, good
especially
questions.
from a real estate perspective. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I was understanding like what we were in effect causing by making this decision.
This is as much an opportunity and an effort, you know, when you hear somebody say, I was always told it was going to be woods. Now, anybody that had any idea would know it's not always going to be woods. And so, but from the perspective of when you're coming to an area and you look at the plans and that sort of thing, and that gives an opportunity here, there's a recognition that it's likely to change, and that's the wave of the pressure of what's there, and it's what's come that way. And I think the campus now, what would you say, 5 or 6 times as big as it was, say, 30 years ago?
Yes, without a doubt.
And it's a super significant facility in respect to DSC, UCF, and then UF with their medical interests with the hospital. So the benefits, and when you look at land use policy, you're balancing community policies and whether it's good or bad for the community overall. That's the effort here. Give people notice, let them know something's coming. The market controls the rate of change as well as policy. It's the best balance. And we were trying to balance and look at it so people would have the opportunity to know and have input.
Yeah.
Mr.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I just had that concern, and I just thank you for clarifying it.
Yeah, it definitely has grown between there and Embry-Riddle and all of the surrounding. I mean, this is even the city of Daytona has grown.
No question. Yeah.
My concern is for the folks who bought their house 10, 15. I'm not opposed to change, don't get me wrong. And I love the way that it's expanding. But when you do this overlay, right, onto some of the individual homeowners, what about their taxes? Is that going to be affected? And not only that, I'm looking at we talk about real estate value. Okay, sooner or later, it's as if we're going to be. I like what they have done to the intramural field, and they work with the community. But I'm just nervous and concerned about those individual homeowners who can't afford to move. The price of the land is going to go up. The price of their property, the real estate value is going to go up. They can't afford the taxes.
So that's where you're maybe mistaken, because you've got homestead exemption. You got to save our homes. So your taxable value can't be increased greater than 3% per year, based on the year of your purchase. And then from the perspective of that, you get your homestead exemptions that come with it, so that you have the opportunity to have an increase in value of your net investment, but without the associated costs, so long as it is your homestead, which is the primary concern, I believe. So that in respect to that, you have an appreciation of value and an investment if you wish to liquidate it, without the associated expense and cost if you were to turn around and buy it today.
Because there are a lot of older homes in that neighborhood. And I would hate to see them have to move out because and then they can't afford. I hope that there's going to be some protection afforded to those
It exists,
individuals.
as Jim's saying. And it may become more depending on the selection.
Okay.
It's a portion of the intent, because from the perspective of the value is probably primarily to the college, but it's transitioning away from being a residential area, and has been for quite some time. When medical offices came in and when the shopping center came in where it did and went as far into the residential as it did. The medical arts building was there long before the shopping center, but those encroachments happened, and it's just a transition of the city as it's moved from the river in its inception, of the lagoon it actually is, to way out west now. And you just consider the differences. I keep looking at Kathy, not because of anything that was said prior, but because she and I have been here a long time, both of us.
Yes.
And we have seen when Nova Road was a 2-lane road with ditches you could put a tractor trailer in. And there's argument whether that's a good thing today, but it's.
But we seem to be losing our neighborhoods. We seem to be losing out to all the commercialization, the expansion. And sometimes when we get change, right, and we are growing, we forget about those who really can't afford to change, who doesn't really want to change, and how the change impacts their future lives. We don't tend to look at the older people, the elderly population who's been there. We don't tend to really focus a lot on those older neighborhoods that is going to affect it.
Well, a lot of the intent of this approach was to do exactly that.
Okay.
And let there be a community view and also community input. That's why they had that community meeting. And that's why you don't see a room full of people saying no. The people that have been advised and have noticed, and this is a notice public hearing. And the plan amendment will also be a notice public hearing. So it isn't as if there isn't both a constructive ability to know in terms of advertising and notice, but there's an actual ability to know because communication with the neighborhood has occurred and will continue to occur. And I am from this place. I was born in Halifax. And you've seen so many people say, I never knew this or that was coming. Part of the intent here is to say to people, this is the likely thing that is coming. Not that it will, because it depends on so many other things, as opposed to being surprised and having an inability to plan.
Okay.
All right.
You all right?
I'm just worried about those folks once we do an overlay, once we change,
understand.
you know, and your public meetings have gotten better. I would agree with that over the year that I've been on the board. I've seen
it's an evolving thing because it hasn't been going on that long. We did those kind of things voluntarily for a long time, and then it became something that was required of us, and it was a little bit of a learning curve. So yeah, we're getting
better. Okay.
Any other questions?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Make a motion, we approve agenda item 4I, LDC text amendment, establish college and university overlay district, DB 2023-233, amended section 4.9 of the LDC.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed 7-0.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night. Yes.
Pardon?
All right.
Yeah. Well, we've got the
Other business?
people. Is there a report from downtown area? Anyone?
No, there's no report. Next meeting's August 4th.
Okay.
Midtown? Tony?
Me. Ms. Washington.
Beachside redevelopment? No report.
Okay.
Is there any other public comments?
No.
No.
If not,
You done said it all.
meeting's adjourned.
Are you recycling this?